Hey everyone, welcome to a post-IU Kentucky version of Inside Indiana Overtime. I'm Alex McCarthy here at Wells Fargo Arena in Des Moines, Iowa, where just watched an IU Kentucky game that really lives up to pretty much all of your expectations about IU Kentucky. It was emotional, it was close, it was there were a couple outstanding individual performances. For Kentucky, Tyler Ulis probably ended his collegiate career with a fantastic game, 27 points, and he was really the only guy late who was able to do much of anything and keep Kentucky in this game. Kentucky ended up losing, or Indiana ended up winning, I guess, 73-67, and Ulis was kind of the man for Kentucky throughout, but didn't quite have enough help. Jamal Murray, who was Kentucky's leading scorer, he still had 16 points, but he was 1 of 9 from behind the arc, and he airballed his last shot of the game. Again, a shot that Indiana was up 4, and he put up a shot, and it went out, and that was pretty much sealed the game in IU's favor. But the big individual performance from Indiana was Thomas Bryant, the freshman forward who has had some really fantastic games this year and has really grown up and has really matured. But we saw it so much more tonight. He ended up with 19 points, but 15 of those were in the last 8 minutes, and he hit 2 free throws at the end of the game with 10.4 seconds left that put Indiana up 4, and put Indiana in a position where Kentucky had to take that Murray 3, and obviously it was off the mark, and Indiana won. But Bryant was equal parts emotional and enthusiastic and crazy, as he always is, but also calm and in the moment and in control, really, especially during those last 5 to 8 minutes. He was just beating people inside and getting open, and Indiana's ball movement was fantastic late in the game. That was that as much as anything led to Bryant's success probably late in the game, but he was able to capitalize on it. He was 6 for 8 from the floor, 7 of 9 from the foul line, 5 rebounds, 19 points. Yogi Ferrell took a while to get going. He didn't score until there were like 8 minutes left in the first half. He missed 5 of his first 6 shots and just really looked so out of his element. Ulis was totally eating him up and forcing him into shots that were either contested or uncomfortable or at the end of the shot clock, and Ferrell took a long time to get kind of into a shooting rhythm, and still he was 6 for 13, which means he ended the game was at 5 for 7 if he was 1 for 6 to start, and then hit 5 of his 6 free throws, 4 assists, 4 rebounds, or 5 rebounds. But in terms of the overall picture, Indiana now heads to Philadelphia. They're going to face either UNC or Providence. By the time you're watching this, you might already know. But that game is tipping off pretty much right now as I'm filming this. So we'll know what that matchup is here in a couple hours. But this is the third Sweet 16 in 5 years for Indiana. And it's kind of the last time Indiana was in the Sweet 16, of course, or 2 times ago that Indiana was in the Sweet 16. They lost to Kentucky. And so this is not necessarily payback, but it's the shoes on the other foot, as they say. And Indiana is going to advance in the NCAA tournament at Kentucky's expense. This was the first meeting since that NCAA tournament meeting 4 years ago, and Indiana made the most of it. I mean, it was clear that, and we've talked about this, I've written about it, talked about it in the podcast yesterday, but it was just so bizarre to see Kentucky players just not care really at all that they were playing Indiana and not know anything about Indiana. And to an extent, I guess that's probably a good thing in a way, where you're not thinking about your opponent as much as you're thinking about, this is what we have to do, this is what I have to do, things like that. But at a certain point, they just didn't really, there's just really no fire to Kentucky in terms of a rivalry game, in terms of an elimination game, and it showed so much more with Indiana. I mean, even during the national anthem, I wrote this on the board, even during the national anthem, I was looking back and forth between Tom Crean and John Calipari the whole time, and Crean he was constantly moving, he was bouncing up and down, he was kind of looking around, he was shuffling his feet, he was, just really amped up and almost nervous and anxious and just ready to get to tip off. And you look over at Calipari, he's just, hanging out during the anthem. And that was really the way that their two teams played tonight. Indiana was all over the place, frantic. At the beginning of the game, it really didn't help. I don't think Indiana was almost too hyped up, it seemed like, at the beginning of the game. They were moving really quickly, they were turning it over a little bit, and just not really getting great shots. Settled into it, played with energy, channeled that energy a little bit better than they did early in the game, and they were able to get a 1-point halftime lead, and then they went on a 5-0 run to start the second half. But Kentucky, back and forth for much of the game, and then coming out of the under 8 timeout, Indiana drew up a play that got the ball, of course, to Bryant, who dunked it, got fouled, finished the 3-point play. That started a 12-2 run for Indiana, provided a little bit of room for the Hoosiers in terms of building a lead and trying to maintain it. And though it got close late, that run ultimately kind of helped lead to victory for Indiana. So that's about it for this game. We have plenty of content on the site, just so many storylines. Rob Johnson left the game with an injury. Juwan Morgan left the game with an injury. Same two injuries they've been dealing with. The ankle for Johnson and the shoulder for Juwan Morgan. But they said that they're probably both going to be able to go next week. So we'll see what the status is on that. But for now, thanks for watching. Hopefully you get some sleep. I know I need some sleep after this weekend. But I'll talk to you soon, and have a good rest of your week.